Let's try a few examples of adding fractions together. This is very much what your homework will look like. We're adding two fractions, but their denominators are different. We know we're not allowed to add fractions until we have common denominators. So we'll rewrite the problem with common denominators. I need a number that both 5 and 10 will divide into evenly. Well, the first thing I check is to see if the small denominator divides evenly into the big denominator. And it does. Since 5 divides evenly into 10, 10 makes a good common denominator. Now get the numerators. What do you multiply times 5 to get 10? Is 2. Then we must multiply the numerator also by 2. 2 times 2, 4. What do you multiply times 10 to get itself? Is 1. So we'll multiply the top by 1. 7 times 1 is 7. Now keep the common denominator and add the numerators. 4 plus 7 is 11. That's an improper fraction, but we don't mind improper fractions. We'll leave our answer just like that. Let's try number 2. We're trying to add fractions, but the denominators are different. We can't add until we have a common denominator. Well, to get a common denominator, I like to first see if the small number divides evenly into the big number. In problem number 1, 5 did go into 10, so we use 10. But in problem number 2, the small denominator does not divide into the bigger denominator, so I can't use 4. Well, the next trick, if the two numbers are consecutive, like 3 and 4, just multiply them together. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 makes a good common denominator. Now to get the numerators, what do you multiply times 4 to get 12? Is 3. We'll multiply the top by 3. What do you multiply times 3 to get 12? Is 4. We'll multiply the top by 4. Now for your final answer, keep the common denominator, add up the numerators. 9 plus 4 is 13. 13 twelfths is a good final answer. This is exactly how I want you to show your work on your homework. You write the problem down this way, rewrite it with a common denominator, then add the numerators and keep that common denominator. Now number 3 is kind of tricky. We need a common denominator. What are our tricks? Trick number 1, see if the smaller number divides evenly into the bigger number. Well, 6 does not divide evenly into 8. If the two numbers are consecutive, multiply them together. 6 and 8 are not consecutive. We could still multiply them together. 6 times 8 is 48, but 48 is an awfully large common denominator. Can you think of a smaller number that 6 and 8 both divide into? 6 and 8 will both divide into 24. 24 is a good common denominator. Now, if you can't come up with 24 in your head, you can always come off onto scrap paper. And on scrap paper, write down the multiples of 6. 6 times 2, 6 times 3, 6 times 4, 6 times 5. Do the same thing for 8. 8 times 1, 8 times 2, 8 times 3. There it is. As soon as you've got a match, well, there's the smallest number that 6 and 8 will both divide into. 6 and 8 both divide into 24. All right, let's get the numerators. What do you multiply times 6 to get 24? Is 4. 1 times 4 is 4. What do you multiply times 8 to get 24? Is 3. Multiply the numerator by 3. Is 15. Now keep the common denominator and add up the numerators. Got it. Number 3 was challenging. Let's practice some more. Now, if you're feeling confident, this is a great place to pause the video, Copy down these 3 problems and try them. And then turn the video back on and compare your work to mine. On number 4, we're adding, so we need a common denominator. The first thing we check, does the small denominator divide evenly into the big denominator? And it does. That means the big denominator is a good common denominator. Now get the numerators. What do you multiply times 8 to get itself? You multiply by 1. What do you multiply times 2 to get 8? Multiply by 4. Now keep that common denominator and add up 3 plus 4. We like 7/8 as a good final answer. Here's how you're going to show your work. You write the problem down. Then you recopy the problem with a common denominator. Then add up the numerators. The things that I write here in red, it's okay to do that part in your head. Here comes number 5. Need a common denominator. Check to see if the smaller number divides evenly into the bigger number. It does not. If the 2 numbers are consecutive, multiply them together. 5 times 6 is 30. 30 makes a good common denominator. Now what do you multiply times 5 to get 30? Is 6. Multiply the top by 6. And what do you multiply times 6 to get 30? Is 5. Multiply the top by 5. Now keep that common denominator and add 6 plus 25 is 31. 31/30ths, a good final answer for number 5. Problems like number 6 can be the trickiest. We need a common denominator. Does the smaller denominator divide evenly into the bigger denominator? No. Are 10 and 15 consecutive like 5 and 6? No. If you multiply 10 times 15, you'll get 150, but that's awfully large. Let's see if we can go smaller. Come down to scrap paper. What are the multiples of 10? 10 times 1, 10 times 2, 10 times 3, 10 times 4, so on, so on. The multiples of 15, 15 times 1, 15 times 2, wait, there it is. 30 matches. 30 is a good common denominator for 10 and 15. 10 goes into 30, 15 goes into 30. If you can find that common denominator in your head, no need to write out the scrap work down here. Now for the numerators. What do you multiply times 10 to get 30? Is 3. And what do you multiply times 15 to get 30? Is 2. And we keep the common denominator and add up the numerators. All right, your turn. Go work some homework problems. I'll see you later on today.